Hello and welcome to The Coolest Journey, the show where we dive, sometimes literally, into the coolest stories out there. From icy swims to warm hearts, our guests share their unique journeys at the crossroads of health and the environment, always with a splash of hope, a dose of joy, and some science based wisdom to help you live better while caring for our planet. Because let's face it, the coolest journey we'll ever go on is the one with ourselves and the world around us. I'm your host, Hélène Caron. This bilingual English Français radio show and podcast is broadcasted live on CFMU 90.3 FM, McMaster University in Hamilton's community radio, every Friday from 12:30 to 1 p.m. And of course, you can catch all episodes anytime on Spotify. Today, I have the tremendous honor of speaking with Peter Williams, a cinematographer with over 30 years of experience filming across more than 50 countries. Peter has done it all, from reality TV and documentaries to breaking news, sports, travel, and live events, and much more. He spent over a decade with major news outlets like CNN International and BBC World, covering everything from conflict zones to stories of human resilience and compassion. After moving to Canada, Peter faced PTSD and anxiety until about 5 years ago when he found healing in cool or cold water. These days, he snorkels and films undersea wildlife in the icy 3 to 5 degree waters of the Salish Sea without a wetsuit and I'm going to add this without a bathing cap as well. That is a pretty big deal. That's actually how we met a few years ago at Kitsilano Beach. So without further ado, here he is to share his coolest journey with us today. Hello, Peter, and welcome to the podcast.
Elaine, it's so lovely. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. I'm honored to be on your show.
Well, you're my first guest on the official Coolest Journey podcast. I've had many other guests on the Healing Humans, Healing Planet, One Story at a Time podcast, which was the previous name of this show. And it's such a joy for me to have you here as my first guest because you really are the one who embody both the literal meaning of the coolest journey and the figurative meaning of it as well. So thank you for accepting to come on my show. So you've had quite an extensive career being a cameraman, director of photography. You've done quite a lot of different roles within the industry, and then you end up in Canada and now you have to deal with basically PTSD. How did it all unfold for you? And then how did you find this cold water?
Helen, thank you so much. What my career has been filming all over the world. So when I worked for CNN in London, I took a lot of assignments that took me to various places, whatever the news story dictated at the time, and just experienced such an incredible um, array of situations. Most of the time interesting, exciting, some of them dangerous, and some of them just heartwarming and interesting. Humans are just so fascinating. But when I finally resigned from CNN because I got married and I moved to Canada, I would find that although it's such a beautiful place in Vancouver, um, I would wake up in the middle of the night kind of sweating and nightmares and horrible dreams. And I went to the doctor eventually, and he said, you've got full blown PTSD. And I said, really? And he said, yeah, you have. And he wanted to put me on medication and stuff. And I didn't really want to go on medication. And I thought, nah, I can do this.
Hmm. And
And,
just out of curiosity, Peter, did you have any symptoms of PTSD before moving to Canada, or did
uh,
this all surface over here in Vancouver?
yeah, that's a funny thing with PTSD. Normally, I was a bit of an adrenaline junkie in the day, and myself and my colleagues, we would plunge into these situations, and some of the worst riots in the world, I'd find myself in the middle of them, or in Gaza in the early days, and when Northern Ireland was kicking off back in that time, I would be called there. So not in major war zones. I never went to Iraq, but I was about to just before I resigned. But that's another long story. And I think the weird thing with PTSD, it can just creep up on you. I think if you're young and you push through different things, you see them as excitement, but the body realizes that you've been put in danger, and the fight or flight situation just gets repressed when you need to cover stories, or you're in the middle of action. It is something that you don't even think about, or me anyway. I didn't think about that, but it it's like a pushing stuff down into the basement. Eventually, it pops up, and you got to deal with it. And I just found myself with unusual amounts of anxiety, and just kind of mental noise that just kept coming in my nervous system. And that's where the cold came in. I found a friend of mine invited me to go on a polar bear swim, which
Oh, fun.
they have them in Vancouver. They have them every year in Vancouver.
And actually, fun fact, Peter, it's actually in Vancouver that polar bear swim started on January 1st,
Oh,
decades and decades ago. Yes.
there you go. Yeah. So
Peter Pantages, I think is his last name, Greek origin in the 1930s, if my memory serves me right. And so this tradition has been going on here in Vancouver for almost 100 years. And it's an interesting thing that how did it spread elsewhere? I'm not sure, but there are polar bear swims throughout the world now. And so anyway, we're in Vancouver. You get invited to go to a polar bear swim. By then, we're what, in about 2019, 2017?
yes, yes, it was like around about 2019. We're looking 4 or 5 years ago, when I first started. I can't remember the exact date, which year. Um, I've got 2000 and yeah, sorry. I'm chronologically challenged, so it's time.
I mentioned 2019 because I saw on your YouTube channel you've got a polar bear plunge video from
There you go.
2019.
Okay, yeah, so that's where it started. I had a dose of it, like diving into the water. It was a weird thing, Elaine. The cold shocked my system, obviously, and you come up, gasping for breath and everything. But
Hmm.
when I got out, I just thought, wow, I'm just feeling better. I just feel great, And so it started like basically like an inquiry of myself. I went back the next day, and to Kitsilano, and there was nobody there. It had been snowing, and I went in by myself, and it once again it just gave me this sense of peace, even though my body was saying, "Wow, this is not good. It's freezing cold." I just started a routine where I kept going back every day, and just going up to my neck to begin with, and staying in for like maybe 3 minutes, and then gradually increased that, and then I started experimenting, putting my head under the water. Excuse me, and because I used to snorkel and free dive in South Africa back in the day, I decided to try snorkeling, and I I found that originally putting my head under the water gave me like an ice cream headache kind of thing. It was like, oh, freezing cold. But eventually I got used to it. And, that was about the time I think I met you. The one day when we were swimming there we were, and we connected.
Well, we were the only two people in the water, or I think I met you on the ramp.
Mm.
I'm pretty sure how that's the chronology of events is I met you on the ramp as you were trying to film some birds. And I was like, well, sorry, I need to go down the ramp and the birds are gonna go. Sorry for your shot, but I can't stay in a bathing suit very long in the cold. And then you were like, wait a second, you swim. And I was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And I'll be here tomorrow. So join me. And that's when you were telling me, yeah, yeah, I've been swimming off the beach and then we went swimming. You were, and this was a nice thing is that we connected. We went in the water at the same time. We were each doing our own thing, but making sure that we were keeping an eye on one another. But
Mhm.
what fascinated me was that you were going in without a bathing cap.
Right, right. And for me, I was like, you the crazy one. You the one that swims all the way out there in the cold, and it's deep there. And if you get into trouble by yourself, it's like, so I was kind of I feeling protective. I was like, come on, I'm gonna have to go and save you out there. And you are the hardcore one. And I used to stay fairly close to the shallows and just dive down and enjoy it. So you guys are amazing.
Just a bit of a parenthesis here. I think you're hardcore for doing the snorkeling without the bathing cap. And I'm swimming out, but just so everyone knows, I've got the what we call it tow float. So there's a belt, there's an inflatable thing that I can grab on, there's a whistle, and I mean, there's not a lot of people on the water. Usually we're a group of people swimming. I always tell people don't do this alone. Go do this with other people. Sometimes it just, you're there and maybe your buddy doesn't show up and then what do? You just have to kind of make some decisions. But in time we get to know the conditions, the body of water, our capacity, um, but it doesn't mean that we have to disrespect the water because it's very powerful and anything can happen at any point in time. So I always tell people make sure you're safe. Have a safety plan in place. That's all I had to say for that. You're the hardcore one, Peter, going under the water, no bathing cap, and you had your camera equipment as well. And I think you were wearing some little flippers, right? So that you could go down.
I normally go with fins and a mask, but exactly talking to what you said, Ellen, safety is paramount. In the beginning, I really did play it safe because I realized the shock of the body has when the water is there, around your system, when you're not used to it, can be very, very dangerous. And I kind of respected it. I would always just do a very shallow snorkel in the beginning, and you know, uh, I still don't go out very deep. I still probably only go out in 20, maximum 25 feet of water. I dive down, and I've just got a tiny little camera around my neck, which actually takes pretty nice footage for the little tiny camera it is. And it wasn't really about filming. It was about just enjoying the cold for 15, 20 minutes a day, like, you and me used to do. And that started giving me benefits. It takes a while. Like I used to go for 15, 20 minutes and then like you did, you have to warm up. And I live fairly close to the sea. So I would go home and have a warm bath and kind of shiver away. And then I would feel great for the rest of the day. So the benefits kind of crept up on me. I didn't realize in the beginning what this was actually doing to my brain and my body. Me and you have had conversations before where we've looked at the research of the cold shock protein in that can be generated in the brain, the RBM3, I think it's called, and just a number of different systems that get activated by the cold.
We call that physiological adaptations, right? So it's the how our body is. It's not just it's in the brain, it's our body, it's our confidence as well. This part of it is our we build confidence with time, with the number of outings that we do, so that, for example, you were saying you started shallow with the snorkeling and eventually you got to a point where you were 20-25 feet deep, which for me is deep. I'm not so sure I would go at that depth, but so you're the hardcore one in my books still. But we build this confidence, and I think that also helps to rewire. things in our brain. So those neuronal pathways basically that are responsible for I've had to deal, and we've talked about this. I've had to deal after a car accident with depression, anxiety, and PTSD. And it was the same thing for me as well. It's not after one outing that, oh my God, I'm cured, I'm healed. It's over time, day after day after day of doing this practice that all of a sudden we start to see the benefits stacking. And I'm not sure about you. I'm going to quickly mention about me. It I started in September 2020, and I had migraines still every week or every 2 weeks at that point in time. And I had over 350 migraines from 2014 to the end of 2020, so almost in 7 years. And so I started mid-September, and by December 1st, I almost had no migraines left. And my last migraine was May 4th, 2021, when we moved here. I had one migraine from December 26th to May 4th. And then from May 4th, 2021 to today, I have not had a single migraine, which in medical terms, this is a miracle. So this miracle is entirely attributable to this practice of cold water every day. And like I said, it didn't happen overnight, but it's pretty short in terms of how fast I saw the benefits. So for me, it was this period of time. So let's say 3, 4 months, and I continue today to improve thanks to this cold water practice. How about you, Peter? How long did it take for you to realize this is actually helping my PTSD? This is actually, and it's continuing to build, or how is it looking for you?
Yeah, Elaine, that's amazing. I mean, just I love hearing other stories of people that, like yourself, that have had um, just completely different medical complaints healed by or, at least alleviated by the cold. What I found was it it became not an addiction, but it became like a compelling thing I did. And it's not that I could do it every day because sometimes I'd go away on shoots and then I couldn't find a body of cold water to go and do it. So in the hotel, I would seek down the ice machine and fill up buckets of ice and put them in my bath and have an ice bath, which kind of did the trick, as well as cold showers. But it's we were talking about this. It's not quite the same as the sea. The sea
Mm-hmm.
has always been very special for me. I used to surf a lot when I was younger, and I used to do a lot of diving in South Africa. So it was a natural um, I kind of juxtaposition really between the Vancouver Sea and snorkeling again. I call it skin diving because that's a proper word for it. It's a mixture of free diving and snorkeling. But what I've found was that anxiety is a funny one. I like people talk a lot about PTSD, but really the body, as I came to understand it, gets triggered by various stresses, and it elicits the same series of responses as if you're in a dangerous situation or if you're in a situation that's threatening to your nervous system. And that creates anxiety. So if you go to work and you just feel jangly and you feel like, I don't know, out of sorts,
Mm-hmm. And
very
sometimes we
often,
can feel it creeping up from
yes,
inside. Yeah.
yes. So I did a little documentary on a little mini doc, which you've seen, on YouTube, which I put up, um, just from some of my exploits in the early season, and really the benefit that I found was that I knew that once a day I could sit with my body feeling uncomfortable for 15-20 minutes in cold water, and it just occurred to me one day, well, if I feel anxiety, it's like a feeling in my nervous system that is kind of you want to push away. You don't want to like hang around with feelings that are not comfortable. So you either distract, or I'd have a glass of wine with my wife Kate, and we'd I'd distract myself, either scrolling on internet or any way that could distract myself from those feelings. But as you know, when you go into cold water, it's immediate. The cold is all over your body, and you can't get away from that sensation until your your mind and your body get used to it. They go, okay, I'm going to accept this. I'm going to accept this feeling, and then you start enjoying it, as you know. And
It's
that's
all right.
what
I have to underline this. Enjoy the feeling because most people listening to us at this point would go, no way would I ever enjoy the feeling of being in the cold. And yet we do.
yeah,
So, I mean, when I started, I didn't necessarily enjoy it right from the beginning. The first 30 seconds to a minute and a half, let's say, are pretty rough. And then the more we do it, the less that initial shock period is. So I think now it's about 5 to 10 seconds. Let's just get in the water and then I'm fine. Then I settle. For some people who only do it once a week, once a month, that initial reaction time, that fight or flight, right? It can take longer. It can take about 2 minutes. And then you have to breathe through it, calm yourself down, not just flee back, go back to the beach. You have to breathe through that.
I agree. I totally agree. And going back to the safety component, because I used to meet people on the beach and they would say, "You crazy? What are you doing? Like snorkeling in midwinter when it's snowing and when it's raining and it's 6 degrees and there were times that I pushed myself further than I should have. Like I tested my limits, almost going. The one day I went out like for 25 minutes, and then when I was coming up the hill towards my house, I was feeling almost the effects of hypothermia, I would think. And I was like, this is not good. I'm not going to push myself
Mhm.
beyond what I'm capable of. And, as you know, with the danger with cold water, when you you suddenly dive under the water, somebody who isn't used to that period that you say when your body adjusts and everything, your instinct is to take a gulp of air. You take a deep breath, like this is cold, and that's where you can suck in water and you
Mhm.
can get yourself into trouble. So
Mhm.
I I was very very careful not to exceed that kind of delicate balance between enjoying the cold and not putting myself into danger. And I honestly would stress that with anybody. I'm not trying to encourage anybody to emulate what I'm doing. Really, really, what I'm excited about is just the benefits of what I've discovered personally, and also the people that I've met on the beach. That have done it, even if they just cold plunging, just going into their up to their necks. Similar reports of
Mhm.
being able to deal with a lot of different physical and mental issues that they weren't able to deal with it without going into the cold water immersion.
Mhm. I totally agree. That's been my experience as well. Either talking to people there or finding people in the water and why are you swimming today? And I need it. It's my daily reset, right? And that daily reset helps us to build an extra capacity or a buffer to take in the events of the day in a way that is mm, more, I don't want to say more constructive, but in a way that is not bringing our anxiety or it's not affecting our hormone levels the same way as it would without having that reset. Even a cold shower is better than nothing at all. But I think you're right. There's something about the ocean. We're lucky over here with the Pacific Ocean. We have the Salish Sea, but also being suspended. So we don't have the gravity. We have buoyancy in the water. I think the buoyancy is also helping our nervous system to disconnect, and that brings other benefits by itself. So that's why the float baths, for example, are out there in some spas. But to come back to what you were saying, so you started. your practice, then you eventually built it up to about 15, 20, 25 minutes. You're out there, then you're trying not to push it too much because you had that one experience with potential hypothermia. There are other risks as well. One of them is transient amnesia, which is where people lose whatever it is, and they could still be going back home, but they completely forget everything that happened between the point that they got out of the water until they got home. So that's definitely not something that, you have to be aware of it, of all of these things and not overly do it. And I'm not sure how you feel about it, but for me, I know that 2, 3 minutes is not enough. I need a minimum of 10 to 14 minutes in the water for me to really feel the effects. Is that how you feel as well for for feeling? And it's not just PTSD, you're feeling it in other ways as well.
Absolutely. That some of the research says that, even just 3 minutes a day, because I don't want to have to encourage people to go in for 10 minutes or anything like that. But that's what I've kind of settled at. Also because I'm interested in the sea life now. I'm one of the few people that actually documents the kind of what goes on under the water at Quetzalano. And initially, I used it as a distraction so that I could distract my body from feeling cold
Mm.
by doing what I love, filming, and I kind of juxtaposed the two together and kind of realized, well, you know. Um, I can get benefits from both. I can enjoy snorkeling and skin diving, as I call it. But what I found was it, not so much the time that was in the water, but it was the actual knowledge that my body could withstand something that I didn't really want to do, because there are many days that I went down when it's raining and it's miserable, and I
Oh,
always
yes.
I always made that I always made a pact with myself. If I got to the water's edge and I really felt don't go, I would go home. But to tell the truth, that's only happened like 2 or 3 times in the whole 4 or 5 years. Most of the time, I would go in. And the second my head would go under the water and I'd dive in, it would be boom. All of my troubles and my worries would be left on the shore. And once my body acclimatized itself to the cold, I would be in my own world. And I've said to you many times, it's my meditation. It's my meditation period. I don't meditate much on land, but when I'm there, and also with skin diving and snorkeling, you do have to breathe a lot because you come up and you take deep breaths, and especially with the cold, your breath time is not as long, and you shouldn't make it longer anyway. The breathing aspect, I think, helps a lot in helping release those pent up or suppressed feelings in the body, or nervous system responses. It's a way of just letting them pass through the system. And I've spoken to friends who can't stand the idea of getting cold and going cold water swimming. And
There are many friends and strangers who are afraid of this. Yeah.
they see it as being nuts. Like, why would I want to put my body in a freezing cold patch of water? But for me, what it introduced was just, I knew that I could face something uncomfortable for a period of time in my day. So when the anxiety came back, um, I would just allow that sensation of negativity to sit in my body for a period of time, with the knowledge that I was able to do it in the cold water. So why couldn't I do it in life? And whatever you find that can basically allow you to sit with that feeling of what normally you would push away, it just allows it to kind of go through your system and process. But I've never I've never found anything as effective as cold water for this.
And this is pretty powerful. Yeah. And you can manage your symptoms much better than overall for PTSD.
Absolutely. You know, the I've been back to the doctor, and you know, they've said you're so much better. You don't need to worry about medication or anything now. You're not suffering from anxiety as much. And it's not that I'm not suffering from anxiety. It's not like this is a magic bullet that just makes it go away. I still get anxiety. I get anxiety like, when I've got a big shoot or some big um, I still do a lot of TV series. I just finished one for Netflix just about a week ago, and it's not that I don't have anxiety that comes back. It's like these old systems that are in your body. They will come back, but I've learned to reframe um, my relationship with my anxiety, thanks to the cold, um, so that like with learning to become uncomfortable swimming in cold water, I've become comfortable with when my anxiety comes back. Go, oh, there you are again. Okay, I can be with you for a little while, and we can hang out together, almost like old friends. It's kind of funny, and that is a big switch in the brain because then suddenly it says, well, then you don't have much to fear. And it's like a dance. You do a dance. I don't think it heals you. People love to have this idea that you just go and take a pill, or you do something and go on a meditation course, and then suddenly your anxiety is gone. I don't think it ever goes. I don't think any fear or anything in your system goes completely. But these are tools. These are very, very valuable tools that help.
And I want to talk a little bit more about the reframing. When we think cold water, when we are kids, when we are adults, when we are teaching others about water safety, when we grow up around a body of water, we learn cold water is dangerous, hypothermia. It still is. But there's a whole reframing that's been happening worldwide around cold water, which is why we're seeing more cold plunges, places that are opening up to offer this. What do you have to say about this?
Ellen, I love this. I found you've probably seen it as well, even at Quetzalano. Like urine, since I started doing this, every year there's more and more cold plunge people that keep showing up. Um, and I know there's been a lot of kind of groundbreakers along the way. Like there's been Wim Hof and a number of kind of celebrity names that have, but I never really followed any of that. It was just my own trial and error, which um, I I love the fact that I meet people at the water's edge, and I've met the most. I've had some of the most honest and open conversations near the water because, for me, like a lot of times, as you know, I I kind of avoid the big crowds of swimmers and stuff like that because for me it's my little private meditation. And whereas I think you could get the benefits with groups, going out swimming together, doing it together would first of all would be safer, and secondly, there's a social aspect to it. My journey has been kind of individual and kind of alone, which is probably not ideal, but for me it is. I love it. I just absolutely love it. And I think people could quite safely, once they get used to it, go down and definitely at least do up to their neck cold plunge every day by themselves. I don't think it's a major problem unless they've got some sort of heart complaint or some sort of medical complaint, which obviously you have to pay attention to because it is challenging the body. Like with any sport where you challenge yourself, you challenge your system, you can run into trouble unless you're careful. So I keep
Mhm.
stressing to the people that I meet on the beach, do it slowly. Just go in there for a minute, um, see if you like it. If you like it, come back. And that way it also builds confidence, as you were saying. And so it's not such an assault on your body that you just like, oh, I don't want to do that again. That was terrible. You know.
Yes, yes. I remember hearing someone who had been sitting out on the beach for maybe 20 minutes and it was cold. Then she went in the water first time, way too long. She was in there for 15, 20 minutes. And then she was sick for a week. Her body somehow reacted to all of this cold. And of course, she never wanted to go back. But that was Mother Nature's way of saying, you got to take it easy. Like the first time, what I tell people is go in for 2 minutes, figure out your strategy before. How are you going to set up your station where you are? What's your entry point, your exit point? Once you're in the water, you want to just focus on breathing. And if there are other people around you, it's even better because then you can just talk to others and take the focus out of your own mind, have the external conversation as opposed to the inside monologue. And then after 2 minutes, beep, 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 you get out of there. And then you see how you like quickly get out of your wet bathing suit, dry yourself up, put some warm clothes on, not cotton. Sadly, we prefer natural fibers, but cotton is just not something that's going to keep you warm after a cold water exposure. And then see how your body reacts. If you have white fingers, white toes, or blue, I've seen the blue, black, dark, burgundy marbling. Maybe it's not a good idea for you to do this, but maybe it's good for most people. And I've seen it too with people who have Raynaud's, which is that autoimmune disorder where the capillaries, um, they don't function as well in the hands and the fingers and the toes. And somehow this cold exposure is helping them. So you got to work with the medical team. You got to be careful. And you were saying that you've been doing this solo. I also know that at times you have your wife with you on the beach. So that's the other way that if ever someone wants to try this, right, they could do that, have someone on shore when they're in the water so that there's always someone there in case something happens. I mean, ideally, you're a group of people in the water together for safety purposes because someone on shore can just call 911. They won't necessarily go in. Those are the various safety measures, some of the safety measures that we can put in place. But you're right, there's more and more people doing this. And I think it's also more and more people doing it year long and without the wetsuit. Is that what you're seeing?
Absolutely. Exactly, speaking to you definitely are like an ambassador down there. You do warn people about the safety element of it, and I've seen you interacting with people and myself too. I'm a bit of a maverick, and I actually don't want to encourage everybody to go um, snorkeling because it is a long curve getting used to it. As you know, putting your head under the water without a bathing cap, and I in the beginning I was almost like I said to my wife, I'm like a crash test dummy in this. I'm putting my head under the water. It might have negative effects on the brain, and I'm still, the jury's still out on that. I don't know what effect it really has in the brain, like having freezing cold water around your skull without any form of, protection. But you could definitely, even if you're cold plunging, without having to go out snorkeling or go beyond your depth, um, just try putting your head under the water while you do a cold plunge and see how it goes. But
Mhm.
I definitely wouldn't advocate just diving straight in without any training because it's a huge shock on the body and the head, as you know, loses a lot of your your
Body heat.
body
Hmm.
through the head. that's why it's taken me a while to kind of build up. Um, but you know what you were saying about the fingers and the circulation. In the beginning, my fingers and toes would be white, and I would come home, and I get into a bath of warm water, and they would almost be tingly and painful. You know, white toes, white fingers, but like we were talking about, the body adjusts, the body gets used to it. And now I've found with breathing over the years something strange because RBM3, which is meant to be like one of the cold shock proteins that your brain um, is meant to produce by kind of regular cold exposure, has a thermoregulating effect apparently, and I've found that through breathing I can actually heat my core of my body up, and my fingers and toes, the circulation is way better now. So I don't have that same reaction of. So yes, I can imagine that someone with Raynaud's or someone with a circulation problem, it may help to to just train the body to increase the circulation through wanting to heat it up all over, not just the core, but the extremities.
Mhm, mhm. And still on the topic of reframing cold, I'm thinking of reframing cold water as a means for healing much more than what we've been exposed to in the past centuries. I mean, there were some cultures already, if we're thinking about the Russians, the Scandinavians, even our northern cultures over here, the First Nations, they Inuit people, there is an aspect of being exposed to cold, whether it's water or air, that is healing to the body. That is now starting to become more mainstream, which I'm happy to see that. Now, if you were to talk to, so you moved to Canada in what year, Peter?
We moved in 2001. No, 2004. No,
2000 and 2000 or early 2000. And
uh,
when is it that your symptoms of PTSD started?
about a 6 months to a year after, probably about 6 months after I arrived here. I was looking for new work, trying to break into the television industry here, and it's also the stress of trying to find a new job in a new country, getting used to a new culture. Um, Obviously, that puts stresses on the system, but yeah, it just suddenly started cropping up with dreams and just a classical kind of PTSD. Wake up
Nightmares.
sweating, and 3 o'clock in the morning was the big one. Like I'd wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning with a lot of anxiety, go through to the living room, sit there by myself. My wife would be fast asleep, and you kind of suffer through it by yourself. Whereas now it's like I said in that little mini doc I made on YouTube, it's like my little secret. It's like my little friend. And even now, when I go out in very cold air, it's like it's it's like my friend. It's like, oh, there's the cold again. It's my friend. And
It's like a cold hug or a cold embrace that is soothing, which is really, we have to kind of wrap our head around that, right? Usually we think about warm embrace, but the cold is that warm embrace to us.
absolutely, and not just plugging cold as being the panacea of everything. I I I've just used that as a very valuable tool to be able to somatically feel um, negative sensations and or sensations in the nervous system that we see as being negative, because as they kick in, the old narratives and the old stories around whatever triggered that will go, okay, this is negative. I need it. I need to get rid of this. I need to distract. I need to get it, to escape. Where with cold, you can't escape. When you're in the water, for that period of time, even though you get used to it, it it still has that element of being a challenge to the system.
And I think it's that element of challenge that is actually snapping us back in the present moment. We are forced to be in the present moment. Nothing else matters because it's not a question of life and death, but it could become a question of life and death if we were to make some wrong decisions in those moments. But the cold against our body is that physical sensation that is just here you are in the present moment. And I find that as the water warms up around 12 and more, I don't get that feeling anymore. But under 12 degrees, there's that like 8 to 12 is like my magic zone. I can swim hard. I can do a lot of things. I can be in the water for half an hour. I am happy as a clam. Under 8 degrees is like, okay, it's challenging. And under 5 degrees, my hands are a big issue. They hurt, but that's from some long COVID and other things that I've had that are still an issue. But I think they're getting better. So to your point, over time, whatever condition we have could become better when we're exposed to cold. Um, so you putting your head underneath the water, no bathing cap, you're really freezing your head, which is anti-inflammatory. It's like putting ice on a fresh wound. And going back to that time that you just moved to Canada, you're looking for a job, you're adding your stressors, right? That could be building up some type of inflammation in the brain just from poor sleep, right? Then the brain can't cleanse itself at night as it's supposed to be doing. If you were to go back to your younger self back in 2007, would you tell your younger self, head to the waters, young man?
Absolutely. I actually would. You know that straight away. If I could go back to my older self, I go because the funny thing is, Helen, I grew up in a very hot country. I grew up in Durban, right? So I only saw snow for the first time when I was like 18 years old. And it was at the top of a mountain in the Drakensberg, and we went up there and I touched snow for the first time. So
Wow.
I had a natural aversion to cold, really. Yeah, the last thing I'd want to do in winter is go into the water. So when I came here, first of all, I was one of the early kind of big wave. We used to surf big waves in South Africa, and um, here it's flat. You know, the water's flat, and I was like, this is very uninviting. It's cold and it's flat, and there's no waves. And why would I
Unless,
want to?
unless you want to go to Tofino, but that over here in Vancouver, it's pretty flat.
Right, right. And so um it the sea wasn't my friend for the first few years. It was kind of alien and cold. And when I started doing the cold water plunges and going in, it was almost like nature put its arms around me and wrap me up again and go, welcome back. Okay, we're the cold version of what you used to, but it's still the sea. And the sea, as you know, has a mystique to it and an element to it that you can't put your finger on, right? And so, and you know, lakes are brilliant too. You know, they're great. They're out in nature. It's beautiful. And also, you know, the salt water is so good for your body. So I do
Mhm.
I do love the fact that we are able to get into, you know, naturally cold water that is the sea.
So you would be telling your younger self then back in 2007, hit the waters. And how would you, if you, because if, now looking back, I don't know if I would have exactly the same path in the cold water. There are some things that I would change. How about you? What would you tell your younger self if you know, okay, you've got some PTSD symptoms that are starting to appear? What would you tell your younger self, and how would you ease that journey into the cold water?
You know, the one thing I've developed, you know, filming people all over the world and just being like an observer behind the lens of a camera. I'm normally not an outgoing person as far as like being in the spotlight. I like being behind the scenes. But when I meet people on the beach and I'm in my zone, I'm really happy and I'm really, I don't know, that's where that's where you meet your real self. And I I've met a lot of people, um, and I can also tell I'm kind of fairly empathic. I can tell if someone suffers from anxiety. I can just look at them and my body can just tell me that person struggles with a lot of the issues that I've had in the past. So the first thing I want to do in a way is reach out and offer anything that I can do to relax them and make them feel comfortable, as well as giving them tools to help them, so they don't have to go through that same process of suffering that I went through. So absolutely, there is a secret to the cold, and I haven't completely unearthed it, and I love and I embrace research. My wife works at UBC, and they do so much research, and I can't wait for a cold water program where they study the brain, and I know they have in England and stuff, but um, yeah, anyway, I think I'm probably off topic of what you asked, but um,
Not that much. Well, just to finish off on that, I wish we had some studies showing cognitive skills improvement in especially older adults that start to do cold plunges. Now, I should say cold immersion because when I say or cold exposure for me, it includes plunges, swimming, includes, snorkeling, water running, whatever people do in the water. But then, even within those categories, the swimming is very different in terms of how it affects our body, rather compared to the plunge. In If someone is plunging, the heart will race a little bit, but there's no aerobic activity. It's not a sport. If I'm swimming, I'm doing some sprint work, I'm doing a lot of different drills, I'm doing different things. And so that I know has been a performance improvement for me. There are different physiological adaptations there that would definitely be worthwhile to explore. There are other benefits as well to just floating around, right? Do the either water running or head up breaststroke, nice and easy. And then for someone like you who's doing the underwater part, I am sure that there's something happening in the brain in terms of lighting up every zone of the brain that is different from the swimming and different from the just the immersion. So there's definitely a lot more research that is required in this regard. Chronic pain, migraine management, uh, anxiety, depression, PTSD, all of those, and actually suicidal thoughts as well. Researcher Mark Christie interviewed three different people who had suicidal thoughts. I think one of them had already attempted suicide. Um, and this is a published study. All three healed, I don't want to say healed, but got a lot better and not depressed anymore through cold water swimming daily. So there's a lot of power in the cold, much more research to be continued on this topic. Of course, it's always about doing it safely, but how do we approach it? To your point, it might be slightly different from person to person. Maybe someone goes in 2 minutes and they're like, yeah, well, I could be in here for 10 minutes and I'd be completely fine. And another person would go, yeah, 2 minutes, like I've reached my top right now. I don't know why, and it doesn't matter. Sometimes people think, oh, maybe it's because it's a woman who's thin versus a man who is has a little bit more weight. Let's just put it that way. It doesn't matter. I've got some women who swim with me who are very healthy, very active, a very healthy weight, and no problem being in the water this morning for 30 minutes. And I know been in the water with some, and I'm just doing gender differences here, men who are bigger and heavier in the water for 30 seconds and they're screaming. They cannot stand it because they're not used to it. And even over time, it takes them longer to get used to it. So it doesn't matter our body fat percentage. It doesn't matter. Mental resilience plays a huge role in it and how much pain we're willing to tolerate. But I think it especially depends on what kind of a high do we get afterwards. Because when we know that we're going to feel great afterwards, it's amazing how much we're willing to put up with when it happens.
No, so lovely you said that, and it's so beautifully put the way you phrased that. There've been times that I've gone for I've started off my day feeling really anxious and really jangly and just having a lot of negative thoughts about life in general and my, like I should be doing something else somewhere else. A friend of mine called it the itty bitty shitty committee.
Oh, yes.
You know, the itty bitty shitty committee talking in your head, going blah blah blah. And I would go to the water and dive in and spend 15 minutes filming crabs or whatever it is, a fish or and when I'm coming up the hill and in the beginning you shiver a lot. You know that feeling. What did you call it? The stumbles, the mumbles, the fumbles, and
Yeah, there's a whole the five umbles, I think, and it's
stumbles, grumbles.
your body keeps cooling down even after you're out of the water. So
Yeah,
that's what we have to deal with.
yeah, that's it. So you got to watch that the amount of time you spend in the water. You've got to allow your body to go through that almost that cold detox period afterwards, where it's getting used to and shaking off and getting your body back to its normal temperature. But there've been times that or actually quite a few, where I'm coming up the hill and I'm near to my home and I'm in bliss. My brain is so blissed out. And so obviously the endorphins are firing, all my systems that are saying you're more alive than you've ever been, and that high is, I think, what makes you keep coming back.
Hmm. And actually, that high, I know I felt it too. So it's not just there's a cold and how we feel afterwards, but I find if I combine that with resistance training or some type of low level aerobic activity afterwards, and especially if I listen to music, it's like, oh my God, my brain is a Christmas tree on fire. I can think. I feel awesome. I'm connected. Basically, that's what it comes down to. I feel like I am connected to my body. I'm connected to my brain. I feel like my whole being is working at 100%. Is that how you feel as well? That sense of connection with yourself and connecting to nature and others, but connection within yourself?
Absolutely. You mentioned earlier on about it pulling you straight into the present moment. Now we live in a society where you don't live in the present moment, and everything is geared towards disconnecting you from yourself in a weird. I know that sounds like two people in the room, but it you, we don't live in a society that encourages us to just be absolutely present with what is going on and right now, like right now. And the cold demands that. It's like you here right now because your body is cold right now. And for me, that that is a very, very like special conduit because unlike extreme sports where you like just and I've done hang gliding and I've done big wave surfing and stuff where you really are being present through danger. This is different. This is just it's almost like it's a very interesting portal because it brings you into the present moment in a very controllable way, without too much hype, without too much, um, adrenaline or whatever. And that to me seems like I always call it my little secret. It's my little cold water secret.
I call it my obsession drug. I need that cold water. It's my day is just not the same without it.
Yeah, I find summer can be a, I used to hate winter. I used to like, oh God, these long, and especially in Vancouver, it rains all the time, and you're like,
Mhm.
it's a time to just, it's dark and it's rainy, and you just like, that's like like a breeding ground of depression and rumination and all of that. But now my brain goes, ooh, October, the water's starting to get cold again, and it like calls me back. That it's like a little call. You talk about the call of the wild. It like calls me back. It's like, ooh, the water's getting clearer. It's getting colder. Like, come on back. And I avoid all the summer crowds and all of that now. I go for a dip, but the water's not clear, and it's not the same as in winter.
And just a quick aside, you shared with me a video that you had done about what you do in the summer is you usually put some ice cube in a sieve. You hang that from your shower so that you still get cold water exposure, even if you're not in the water. I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, yeah, I know that I developed that. I was like, I need a fix. So I got a colander, like a sieve, and just filled it up with ice and kind of put it over my head in the shower and let all the ice melt, um, so that the water was cold. And it definitely gives you a similar effect. Um, Probably not the same as the sea, but I needed my hit, as you say. It's like, I hate to say it as a drug, but I'm sure the body does get addicted to that, um, the joy, the joy of just, hang on, I'm free. If I can, and especially like, and I keep going back to this, juxtaposing what I'm getting from the cold to what normal, a lot of people that I see, a lot of people that I meet in various industries that don't do cold water swimming, they suffer from anxiety. They suffer from PTSD and stuff that they're trying to solve those sort of problems. And this, to me, I haven't really found a more natural, um, antidote for being able to come to terms and to face and to process negativity in a better way than the water.
I agree with you. And not only is it natural, it's easy. Most people have to take, well, most people want to take, have to take a shower or a bath, every day. So it's easy to have in the shower, start there, right? Last 15, 20 seconds in cold. Not everyone has access to a body of water, but many people do. I don't know how many times I've heard people say, "Oh my goodness, I've lived in Kitsilano area for 20 years and I've never been in the water until now. What have I've been missing out all this time." So, there's the access to the water. So there's a shower, most of us have that at home, access to a body of water. I'm lucky that I'm in Richmond over here. Our aquatic center has a cold plunge. There are many other centers around and spas that have now cold plunges, but they're expensive. So there's the access. Many people now have a cold plunge tub in their backyard or on their balcony if they're in a little condo or apartment. I think it's getting a lot more traction around the world. I think we're going to see more of those studies. I think if I could go back to my younger self, and I think I would have gone back into the 1990s, I would say you need to do a cold water practice every day for a number of reasons, and you'll feel so much better. And I'm happy I found it, but I really wish I could go back in time and tell my younger self, you need to to embrace the cold, right? And I think especially after the car accident, if I meet someone today, they tell me, "Oh, I just had a traumatic brain injury." I tell them, hit the cold. Just take cold showers. Try and get into the water, into open body of water. Just try and be in the cold every day to manage and reduce the inflammation that is happening in the body. So that's one thing I really, really wish I knew back then. So that's part of what I'm doing is spreading that information to others. But to come back to what you were saying in terms of reframing the cold water, it's still going to take some time. And I think in 5 to 10 years, we're still going to see a lot more people getting into the water, which for me is a good thing because then we'll all want to be working together to protect the quality of the water, to protect the live, how alive this water is in these bodies of water. Um, I mean, will it be adopted by everyone? Probably not. I mean, we started out, we were like renegades and the crazy ones. Um, Nowadays, oh yeah, okay, yeah, you swim through the winter and there are a lot more of us. So it's like any new thing being um an innovation coming into our world, right? Then you've got the early, I can't remember what the whole scale goes, but I think it's something like the innovators, early adopters, late adopters, laggards, so on and so forth. There's a rate at which we adopt new products, services, methodologies, protocols. And I think the medical community is still very much in the dark regarding the power and the benefits of cold. Um, but I think it's going to come. I think it's going to come, Peter.
Oh, it's coming. And and speaking to, because you were saying, you need to do it every day. I've found you don't need to do it every day. I found that for me, you talk about the benefits of it is that I do go away on shoots for like 6 weeks at a time, and I'm not able to do it. And the benefits that I've gained are just being able to face the negativity, being able to face the and that is so valuable. Whether are able to do it every day um, or not, you still, by even doing one or two or whatever cold plunges, but but experience it from the point of view. That's what I would tell my younger self. I'd say, okay, if you're going to plunge in the water, there's a process here. You're gonna slowly learn to accept that cold into your body. But if you want to overcome PTSD, if you want to overcome anxiety, then it's a sensation. It's a sensation of your body. You can learn to embrace and to accept the very, very things that before you would call negative. And whether you are able to do it every single day or not, I still think there's massive benefits to meeting the cold. Because some people might go, oh well, I can't go down every day. Um, as I can't. Like there's sometimes I will go straight if I'm not working, I'll go down every single day. But there's other times, weeks, I'm not in the water. But when I do go down again, it's like an old friend embracing me, and I'm like, oh, here we are again. Um, so yeah, it's like it's been a dance. For me, it's been a dance between being able to do it regularly and also for me, I tried to avoid the aspect of self-discipline, that thing of like, I need to, because if I don't, there will be consequences. For me, the cold water swimming has been my meditation. It's been my refuge. It hasn't been this voice in my head of like, oh, you got to do this every day. Otherwise, the benefits will go away. They haven't. They haven't
Mm-hmm.
gone away.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just for people listening that go, oh well, I can't do it every day, so it won't give me the benefit. That it will.
And even once a month, because I knew some people who were just doing it once a month. Even that once a month was helping them. So
Yes.
it's just about, where are you in the health spectrum? How do you want this to help you? And maybe it's spiritual health, right? It's about connecting with nature. In which case, going to a more remote area is your thing. Well, then once a month is okay too. I'm still on my journey of post-concussion recovery. So for me, there's a lot of still chronic pain management involved. So I definitely feel my best when I'm in the water every day. This said, to your point, is it once a week, twice a week, once a month, every few weeks? I would say to people, however they want to fit that practice and see how they're doing with it. And then if they want to do it more often, then it's a question of wanting, not having to.
Totally. And another physical benefit I've found is being a camera guy, I carry a lot of weight on my hands. I carry a lot of heavy equipment, and I used to get a lot of pain in my joints and a repetitive strain injury. That goes away. If you do repeated exposure to cold, there's something about the anti-inflammatory effect that's absolutely profound. So just from a physical point of view, without even talking about mental, it definitely has an anti-inflammatory quality to it.
Peter, I also wanted to talk about how this habit of cold water exposure stacks over time. So we were talking about people can do it once a month, every day, what I'm doing, or whenever their schedule allows, which is pretty much what you end up doing. Of course, the more we do it, the faster we see the results, but the benefits still stack. You still see benefits today from this practice, correct?
Absolutely, Ellen. I find it's compounding. Every year I find new benefits of when I go back, and I do find the more I do it, obviously, the more benefits there are. So absolutely, stacking, um, like any form of sports or training in the gym or anything, the more you do it, the more benefits I think you do get. So yeah, I mean, all I just didn't want to discourage people is like, just try it. Just try it. Just even if you do it once a week, just get it going. But the benefits do stack up.
Mm-hmm. And I just mentioned quickly how I'm still doing it every day because I'm still on my post-concussion recovery journey. It was only about a year ago that I was able to start using Zoom. And this was only possible because of the ongoing exposure to cold, so that I'm decreasing the inflammation still in my brain. I'm still, rerouting those neuronal pathways in my brain. I really do believe it depends on where we are on our own spectrum of health and where we want to be and how fast do we want to get there. And maybe once a month is all we need to feel good for a while. And maybe we need to do it more often. But it does stack. This is one habit that I would say it's almost as important as drinking water every day.
Yeah, you definitely hardcore in that way. You every day you there, and I wish I was that diligent. There are days that I don't, but I try and go most days.
You have been out there quite a lot. You've been taking some footage underwater. You showed me some footage of two crabs fighting underwater, which was pretty cool. If people are interested in seeing some of the footage, some of the videos you've put together, they can go to YouTube channel, correct?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm not very diligent in getting it all slick and up and running, but I've got years of footage, which, as I say, I'm going to edit together and start putting it up more regularly. I've got that mini documentary up there now, and a few other little clips. It's just nice when you meet people to have some way to go. Okay, I've got a little thing on YouTube or whatever. I'd like to build up my online presence more, but that'll come.
So if people want to find you on YouTube, I've got here SWS Nightlights. Is that yeah, at Soul Media is your handlebar as well. So at Soul Media One, I should say. All good? That's still the your key YouTube channel?
Yes, absolutely. The one I normally direct people to is the one on Cold Water Secret. That's the little 10-minute documentary that I made from just some of my footage. But I will be putting a lot more in the next coming months. Just trying to get it out there to more people.
It would be a pity for all that footage that you've been taking underwater to just kind of sit there and I don't want to say sit there and gather dust because that would really age me. Sit there in the digital world and take up memory space in a server somewhere or in a memory, because you have gorgeous footage. And I love how you've been putting your videos together as well. So I think people can really benefit from going to your YouTube channel and seeing what you have there. So if people wanted to see what about you, your professional work, your professional site is swsmedia.ca. So people can always go and find you there. But your Instagram handle is nightlights_88, and it's night NITE. Your YouTube channel is where I think we're going to see more and more footage from you, even if they're just like 10 seconds tidbit, like that one that you sent my way about the two crabs fighting. That was so precious. Actually, I want to end with a story that is, we still talk about that story. Would you mind explaining what happened between you and a seal underwater at Kits a few winters ago?
Yeah, the funny thing is, it wasn't even winter. It was coming out of winter. It was coming into, spring, and I was just training, holding my breath under the water at Kitsilano, and the water wasn't very clear that day, and it was fairly shallow. The tide was fairly low, and I would just take a breath and kind of power my way along the bottom. Couldn't really see where I was going, and I suddenly like ran into a big animal. It felt like a big dog sitting on the bottom of the ocean, and I got an absolute fright. And the thing just like exploded, and I came up, and there was a seal looking at me like, "What have you just done?" And we both like completely crashed into each other on the bottom, and then we just had this moment looking at each other going, "What are you doing here?" We're like, and I was like, "Oh my God, I've just like run straight into a seal." Yeah, once you start doing this, you start building up a relationship with the sea creatures. And I find seals now in winter come around me a lot more. It's almost like they can sense that I'm not a threat to them, and they get used to me. And I got a little story to pass on. My sister passed away fairly recently, and I was pretty devastated, and I took her to the water as I do, and I went out at Kids Point, and I was snorkeling, and suddenly the seal just showed up next to me, and it wouldn't leave me, and it was so close to me, and I got footage of it diving and playing with me, and I've still
Wow.
got to put that up on YouTube, but it it stayed with me every single time that I would go out during the time before my sister's memorial, every day. And I was like, this is so weird. And then when she had her memorial, the seal just disappeared, and I haven't had a contact like that before. So nature has an incredible way of surprising us with these little treats every now and again.
Yeah, and there's something to be said about spirit animals, right? They're bringing the energy of maybe someone close to us who has passed on. And
Yes.
we hear all sorts of stories like that. People all of a sudden see a bald eagle, or they see a butterfly, or they'll see a dragonfly, some some reminder of the loved one, that is, yeah, that they're still part of our life.
You know,
And that is,
the spiritual side is a whole nother discussion that we could have at another stage. But yeah, just it, there definitely is a link between nature and the soul and the spirit.
and energy frequencies. We'll definitely keep that for another time.
Okay.
Definitely. Um, Peter, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. This is a on the radio. It's going to be a multi-episode podcast, and on Spotify it'll be a single podcast. So thank you for all of those at home who are listening, but thank you, Peter, for sharing such an honest and inspiring journey with us today. Your story is such a beautiful reminder of how resilience and just a little bit of cold water can help us find peace of mind. And to our listeners, if you or someone you love is struggling with stress, anxiety, depression, PTSD, don't hesitate to reach out. You're not alone. In Canada, you can call or text 988, which is the mental health crisis line. And you can also connect with many other resources and caring humans out there ready to help. So thank you everyone for tuning in once again to The Coolest Journey on CFMU 93.3 FM and on Spotify. If you'd like to see Peter's breathtaking underwater videography in freezing water without a wetsuit and without a bathing cap. Once again, you can check out his YouTube channel, SWS Nightlights, and I will have the website and the link to his YouTube channel in the show notes, so you can find that as well. And you can check out his journey with cold water and recovery, of course. So you can re-listen to this podcast or catch up on past ones anytime on cfmu.ca or on Spotify. Thank you, everyone. Wishing you all health, energy, and the coolest journey of your life. Goodbye, Peter.
Bye bye, Ellen. Thank you so much. It's been a total pleasure. You're amazing. You're an inspiration to all of us. So thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much. And thanks for sharing the story of the seals.
All right. Take care, my friend. Bye.
Okay, bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the podcast The Coolest Journey with me, your host, Hélène Caron. There are two fundraising events I'd like to bring your attention to benefiting the Samper Caicedo Legacy Fund. One is online on October 14th from 8 to 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time or 5 to 6:30 p.m. Pacific Time, entitled Cold Water Exposure as a Tool for Mental Well-Being. An Eventbrite page has been created for it. The link is in the show notes, and it will feature various guests, and prizes will be drawn for a total value of over $500. Definitely worth attending. And on October 18th from 8 to 9 a.m. at Kitsilano Beach in Vancouver, so this is Pacific time, there will be an in-person seminar and ocean outing, also entitled Cold Water Exposure as a Tool for Mental Well-Being. It's like the part two. Both events are free. I suggest a donation to the Samper Caicedo Legacy Fund in exchange. Finally, I'm organizing an in-person total body reset retreat in White Rock, BC, where we'll be enjoying ocean outings, resistance training workouts, breath work, PEMF energy therapy, and a few other surprises. If you're interested, sign up for the newsletter Inside the Coolest Journey on the website thecoolestjourney.com. Thanks again for tuning in. Wishing you all health, energy, and the coolest journey of your life. Bye.